ChatGerry, using Viscoplasticity tool for investigating risks of CVD and CKD, number 1545, APT098, February 22, 2026, Gerald C. EclaireMD Foundation, category CVD, CKD and Metabolic Systems. Preface: my way of studying chronic disease comes from engineering rather than from traditional clinical training. In engineering, we never judge the safety of a bridge from a single number. We study the structure, the load it carries, how long that load has been applied, and how the material has changed over time. A collapse that looks sudden is almost always the final moment of a long-hidden process. The human body follows the same law. The heart and the kidneys are not just laboratory values. They are living organs that carry metabolic and hemodynamic load every minute of every day. When that load stays high for many years, the structure gradually weakens. The final event may appear sudden, but the mechanism is long and continuous. Two ideas that I learned at MIT in the early 1970s shaped my past 17 years medical research work. From Professor Norman Jones, I learned to think in terms of load, deformation, energy, time, and failure. From Professor Patrick Winston, I learned that a model must represent real behavior and real data, rather than mathematical elegance alone. These two directions later merged in my medical research and led to the viscoplastic medicine theory, where chronic disease is viewed as a time-dependent and path-dependent structural response to long-term metabolic load, whose governing patterns can be instantly recognized by my eyes and brain. Most medical decisions are based on a single test result compared with a threshold. That approach is useful for acute care, but it cannot fully describe long-duration diseases such as obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and kidney disease. A single test is like a snapshot of the weather. A 17-year continuous record behaves like a movie. Only the movie can show when damage started, how fast it accumulated, when recovery began, and whether the system is moving toward danger or toward safety. Viscoplastic medicine theory VMT method in plain language, and this study I examined two major organ systems, the cardiovascular system CVD and the kidney system CKD, and two dominant metabolic drivers, body mass index BMI and estimated average glucose EG, instead of asking whether they are statistically related. I asked a structural question: how much total load did each factor deliver to each organ over time? To answer this, I treated the annual change of disease risk as the structural response strain and paired it with its corresponding metabolic input driver stress. When these two are plotted through time, they form a strain-stress loop. The area inside the loop represents the total accumulated VMT, energy transferred from the metabolic load to the organ. In engineering, this area is a direct measure of irreversible damage. In the human body, it represents the cumulative damage potential built up over many years. This is very different from statistical correlation. Correlation tells us whether two curves move together. Energy tells us how much total load has actually been delivered and when that load was absorbed. What the long-term record reveals: when I applied this method to my 2010 to 2026 data, several clear patterns appeared. For the cardiovascular system, body weight and glucose contributed almost equally to the total accumulated load. This means that over the long term, the heart and large blood vessels were remodeled by the combined effect of obesity and diabetes. The energy increased slowly and steadily across the entire period. This is the structural signature of macrovascular disease, where damage progresses gradually under continuous load. It explains why long-term consistency in metabolic control is more important than short-term fluctuations. The kidney showed a very different trajectory. Its accumulated energy rose rapidly in the early years and reached a high level much earlier, after which it remained near that level for a long time. This indicates that the kidney had already entered the plastic state, meaning permanent structural damage. The kidney's phase transition occurred earlier than that of the cardiovascular system. In the renal system, glucose delivered a stronger direct load than body weight. This matches basic physiology. Because the kidney is a dense microvascular filtration structure that is directly exposed to high glucose, chronic hyperglycemia damages the filtering units through glycation, oxidative stress, and progressive loss of functional nephrons. The timing difference between these two vital organs is meaningful. Microvascular structures of kidneys tend to fail earlier, while large vessels and the heart remodel more slowly but continuously. A single laboratory test value cannot reveal this difference, but the long-term energy trajectory makes it visible. The role of obesity and glucose. From a system point of view, body weight acts as an upstream load generator. It pushes the metabolic system toward diabetes and increases the overall demand on the circulation. Glucose, once elevated, becomes the direct transmitter of damage energy, especially to the kidney. This means that weight control is essential for preventing diabetes, but once diabetes exists, glucose control becomes the decisive factor for protecting renal structure. Why no repeated events occurred? For the past 16 years, my daily management has not been based on trying to make every single measurement perfect. It has been based on controlling the total accumulated load. Even when a daily glucose value is high, the model allows me to determine whether the monthly or yearly energy remains in the safe, elastic range instead of entering the damage range. This is the same principle used in structural engineering. A bridge does not fail because of one heavy truck, it fails because of the total fatigue load over time. The practical meaning: this study shows that chronic disease is a time-dependent structural process. Heart disease progresses slowly under combined long-term load. Kidney damage can begin earlier and remain hidden for many years. Weight control reduces the upstream load on the entire system, while glucose control provides the strongest direct protection for the kidney once diabetes is present. Most importantly, long-term stability is more protective than short-term perfection. Conclusion: when health is viewed as a structure under load, the goal becomes clear. The objective is not to chase individual numbers but to keep the total accumulated energy of damage in the safe zone. Year after year, that is the reason no repeated cardiovascular or kidney events occurred during my last 16 years. By watching the area of the loop instead of a single point on a graph, I have been managing the true driver of disease progression, which is total load over time. Disclaimer: I write this paper not for fame, but to share what I have learned so others can understand their health, prevent disease, and live longer, healthier lives. This content is provided for educational reference only and does not constitute medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is created. You may share this summary freely, but it must not be altered, edited, or republished as your own. All intellectual property rights and copyrights for this article and its related materials belong to the author, Gerald C. This content is provided for educational reference only and does not constitute medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is created. You may share this summary freely, but it must not be altered, edited, or republished as your own. All intellectual property rights and copyrights for this article and its related materials belong to the author, Gerald C.